Hey everyone, welcome back to Backstage Pass, right here at Temple University, a part of the CPCA Advising. That's right. We are coming at you with a brand new episode. Finally, it has been some time. Sorry to all of you that have been waiting so patiently. We are finally getting around to it. I'm happy to be joined by my co-host, Sarah. Sarah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing so great, Ben. I'm so excited to get the podcast up and running again. How are you?
That's right. I am living the dream. This is my last semester and it has been feeling great. I'm going to be honest. It is the most fun semester I've had so far. So I'm happy to say that. But even more fun, we get to do this podcast today, and I'm super excited to introduce our new guest. Today's guest is actually not even a new guest to our show, but a new person just in the CPCA advising family, except not really that new. As a matter of fact, the person that we have on today was an owl through and through. He went to Temple University. He has been acquainted with it. And not only that, he worked as a CPCA peer advisor. He has been here at Temple for so long, and now he is working as a full-time advisor. He is here. We are going to talk to him. We are going to meet him. Our new advisor, RJ. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I love the energy.
Oh, thank you. We got to bring the energy up every episode. But yes, we have so much to talk about, RJ. You are a Temple Owl through and through, like I said. You are just I don't know. Like, you've been here longer than Sarah or I, so you have so much more insight to what has been going on with Temple, the changes that have been happening, everything about it. So there is so much that we got to talk to you about. Let's start with something simple, just because we do want to get familiar with you and your Temple aspect. What is your favorite spot on campus? Has your favorite spot changed?
Ooh, that's a pretty good question. So I would say my favorite spot on campus would be we called it the artist palette in the past, but I guess it's the art of bread now, right? The little like cafeteria area in Impressor. I used to be called the palette, but that was probably one of my favorite places just because that's where like me and my friends would just hang out, de-stress from classes, and it was like it was basically the place where people made it or break or broke it. It was a really great space, and I feel like I made a lot of good friends just in that space. I will say I keep wanting to say the palette, but the art of bread has gotten a lot quieter. Like, there's not as many people talking. Like before, it was really, really loud to a point where you could not like eat without like a group of students just like talking about something, their weekend, their classes. But overall the structure is still pretty much the same. And there's a little bit more artwork on the walls and stuff, which is kind of nice. But yeah, that's probably one of my favorite spots on campus, just because again, that's where everyone just hung out.
That's
Wow.
so
See,
funny. I ate there with my friends the other day. We got like lunch from the food trucks and
Hmm.
we walked in and it was so quiet. We were like, oh God, are we gonna like disrupt the vibes? Like if we like talk. So
Yeah, it used to be.
we were like talking, but like quietly. It was so funny.
People were yelling back, and like, I mean, 2013 is not that long ago, but like during that time, that was literally the space where people just like socialize. So it's definitely different. I'm just like, this is bizarre, but you know what, it is what it is.
it is weird. I feel like I've never stepped foot in there and it was loud, to be honest. I feel like every
Wow.
time I've stepped in, it has been dead quiet unless they've had like the little jazz performances that they do in
Hmm.
there. I feel like I've never heard it loud. So
It
that is
was
kind of weird to think about.
it was rowdy. It was people like, large groups of people would just have conversations. You'd have like all like the chorus people at a table, all the band people at a table, all the jazz people at a table, and they all have these different conversations, and it was very lively. Not to say that the art not the palette, the art of bread isn't lively now, but it's just different.
That's so crazy. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine what it was like. The rowdiness just sounds right up my alley. So damn,
Mm,
I grew up in the wrong time period, but
yeah.
that's
I
insane.
maybe it'll go back to its like natural habitat soon once like things start calming down with COVID and stuff. So,
True, true. Yeah, fingers crossed, But
mhm.
because you've been involved with CPCA for so long now, um you have probably attended so many different events, including when you were here for your undergrad, and when
Mhm.
you're here now with how many new events are popping up. What has been your favorite event throughout all these years?
That's a pretty good question. So, it's interesting enough. I feel like some of the most favorite performances like I was actually in. Um, like I we performed at the Kimmel Center. I think it was the Symphony of Psalms by Stravinsky. Uh, maybe 2015, 2016. That was probably one of the concerts I've played in and got to kind of experience. And generally, like some of my favorite recitals I've been to have been like like people's soloists, like specifically piano players, like classical piano players, always just impress the heck out of me because as a trombone player, I can only play like 5 notes at a time versus like someone who's like doing these awesome like you know 20-minute Beethoven pieces that are all memorized as well. Like I've always enjoyed going to concerts like those.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like anything at the Kimmel Center though is like
Hmm.
it's you're just going to have a good time no matter what. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's such a I remember I first of all, I didn't want to do choir, but because of the music tech program, I had to at least take 2 semesters of it. And the one thing I can say for certain is I was super excited to perform at the Kimmel Center. Even though I'm a awful choir boy kind of singer type deal, I thought that was an experience within itself. I think that's
Hmm.
really cool. So, and if anyone has the chance to, I recommend performing there. If not, just going to see a show there. I just
Hmm.
think it's great. It really is something else. Um, but yeah, there's so many events to go to. If you're listening and you really don't venture out, what are you doing? Come on, get to
I
it.
agree. And like even just like I wish when I was in college I went to more shows, even outside of just like classical music and even jazz, like going to like a rock concert, maybe like there's so many different cultural facets in Philadelphia. There's a lot of concerts in West Philly, in South Philly, even in North Philly too. There's like bars, venues, and people perform shows. There's a lot of really great artists that are coming out of Philly that aren't necessarily just from the music school. There's just so much culture in Philadelphia. So
100% agreed. It's worth venturing out. If you're here
mhm,
at Temple, experience Philadelphia. You
mhm,
have to, not just the school, but the whole city. You have to. But food is a big topic that we like to have on this podcast because I really like eating. I
mm,
think that is a vice of mine is I just like eating too much. Um but of course, every now and then we have to have our guilty pleasures and venture out to go grab our favorite food on campus. What is that food for you? What is your favorite guilty pleasure food that you like to pick up?
so this is so I would say guilty pleasure food. It's a tie between the tempiyaki truck, and there used to be something called Richie's Lunchbox. I mean, I think the food cart's still like right in front of Presser, but like I would go there all the time, and like I'd get like a bacon, egg, and cheese with a hash brown inside. I'm like, this is not healthy at all, but I would eat the entire thing. It was so good. But you can still get that at like the normal Richie's restaurant as well. It's still pretty good as well. So
Oh
um
yeah.
yeah, either lots of noodles with lots of like I am eating more like veggies and tofu nowadays, but like just the giant plate of noodles and like soy sauce and like beef, like you can't go wrong with that.
No, absolutely not. That is, oh, it's so good. It really is. There are,
Mhm.
yeah, there's so many places that are good on campus. It's actually kind of dangerous at the same time because of how easy you can fall into that rabbit hole of, oh well, it's here. I might as well venture out.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous game. You got to learn how to pace yourself for sure. But
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I never learned.
It was even worse with Richie's lunchboxes right in front of Presser.
Oh
So
my
it's
God,
like,
yeah.
oh, well, I'm hungry and there's a food truck right here. And they usually are open until like 6 or 7 too. So like,
Yeah.
that was pretty good. And then there was also the Burger Tank. I don't know what last time they were open, but they were open when I was in my undergrad. And that was like a kind of like a really great guilty pleasure. Because right, you just get like a burger with fries and like a drink for all under like $10 too. It was
I miss
very,
them. I miss
yeah.
them. Where'd they go?
Where did they go?
They're missing. What? Okay, so I actually do have to ask you about one
Mhm.
food truck because last year we interviewed, who was it? I forget who we interviewed or who specifically it was, but we started talking about the crepe truck,
Mhm.
and I just want to know your thoughts on it because I remember the conversation we had was it was different,
Mm.
like
It
not
had
too long ago.
I haven't actually eaten from the crepe truck since I've been back. I think, I mean, it depends because I like sweets, but like when you get a crepe, like that's you're eating like a pancake filled with Nutella. So it can be very, so I tended to avoid eating it. And the savory ones were pretty good as well. I'm not sure like what are some of the big differences now, but it was pretty good. I guess I was more of like a Richie's Lunchbox person or a Burger Tank person because they were literally like right there anyway. So
You know what's funny? I'm the exact same way. I
mhm.
never like really went to the crepe truck. It was Burger Tank really was like freshman year for me, like because I was like, oh, I'll just grab lunch real quick and Burger Tank's right there. And
Mhm.
Richie's was like all my sophomore year because if it wasn't outside of Presser, I lived at the View at the time, and the wall
Yeah.
was right there, and
Yeah.
that's where the other Richie's is. So I was like, oh, I'll just grab a coffee real quick. So I definitely relate to you in that way. And something that Temple students often say is that they want a Wawa. They want Wawas to be built on campus, but of course, we can't have Wawas when we already have a couple of 7-Elevens. So
Yeah.
when you go to 7-Eleven, I know it's not like Wawa, but
Mhm.
what do you get a quick snack from 7-Eleven if you're in a pinch?
So I will get like a flavored seltzer water, like the 7-Eleven brand seltzer water. That's
Oh,
pretty like consistent because I love seltzer water. And then maybe some Haribo gummy bears, even though I shouldn't eat Haribo gummy bears, but I've been like on I guess they have like these twin snake flavors and they're pretty good. But definitely don't eat too many of those because it'll make you sick.
Uh,
yeah.
my friends and I, freshman year, they had like this like 2-for-1 deal where like you could get like 2 packs
Wow.
of the like snakes for $2.
Oh my
And we'd
God.
walk from J&H and we'd be like, and we get bags. We just go back and eat them all. They're so
They're
delicious.
so good. I don't know what they put in those gummy
I don't
bears.
know.
We better investigate. That's
Yeah.
got to be an investigation.
We'll just get
Um,
a whole bunch it for the office.
there you go. So I actually kind of want to talk about something now that's a little more that I personally find very interesting, but more so for the fact that we have a connection that we both play in a band. Very different stylistically, which is okay because I love, uh, all kinds of music, and I'm furthermore very interested in your band because of what you've told me so far. So I would like to know more about Kingfisher. What is Kingfisher like? What's your role in the band? What kind of music do you create? Do you have any shows coming up? Stuff like that.
Sure. Well, so Kingfisher technically did disband a little bit ago, like a couple years. We haven't played together. I'm still in contact with everyone in the band. Just everyone just went their separate ways, and um, but we were very famous when we were at Temple. Like we were pretty a well-known like house band. So we played a
Okay.
whole bunch of house shows around Temple, and those are probably some of my favorite moments at Temple as well. Just because it's like playing music for people was so much fun. There's also a little bit of grit to it because like going into these basements and like I always felt so anxious because I had like my $5,000 trombone with me. I'm just like worrying about it the entire time. But like to be kind of that person that people like would look to and be like, we love your music and we enjoy your sound. And also just create a sense of togetherness too is also very fun. Yeah, so like essentially I play the trombone and I helped like arrange some of the charts. I helped write some of the music. Most of the music came from the guitar player. His name is Mark. He's actually, I think, out in DC or Boston. He works in Boston but lives in DC. But he wrote everything with the two main guys. So him, Freebo, who was the bass player, and then Boki, who's the drummer. They were originally like a trio, and then it's actually kind of funny how I actually joined the band. I joined with the band when I was a freshman, and literally Freebo was this outside of presser, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to join a band?" And I was like, "Okay." And then that's how Kingfisher started. I ended up getting Andrew Carson to join as well. He's a trumpet player, also a Temple alum. He got his master's here as well. And then Zach Winger, who's a music ed student, and that was kind of like the basis for the band. Of course, members come and go. We got new ones, and some left. But overall, it was like a great experience, I think, because most of my playing at the time was just like playing in like orchestras or like concert bands and like jazz bands to an extent, but they're very different than playing with a group of like friends that isn't in like some kind of like structured school. This was something extracurricular, which is definitely different for me.
Sure. So, what kind of music was it exactly? If you were writing out charts and all this different things for the band, was it more of like a? Because in my head, when I think trombones, trumpets, but it's like a basement band, I'm thinking, oh, it's like ska probably. It's got to be
Mm.
something like ska,
So
but I don't know.
I would say rock jazz fusion. It's like
Okay.
we're kind of jam bandy as well. I forget that a band that people compare us to, but generally, like you can check us out. We're on Bandcamp. You can look up Kingfisher Bandcamp, and we'll show up there, and you'll see my picture where we took photos, and they're actually in the atrium in Presser. So I think that's kind of funny, but yeah, it's like jazz rock fusion. Snarky Puppy is maybe like a good comparison, like a
Okay, got it.
definitely heavily influenced by Snarky Puppy.
I love Snarky.
Yeah,
Oh,
great
so
band.
good. That's so good. So wait, then what are you currently in? Because aren't you doing some sample-based music in another group?
Yeah, so currently I am playing in a band called St. John Worts. Someone also a Temple Selena, she was a percussionist. I think she still is. She actually plays vibes in the band, and I play synthesizer, and I also play trombone in it as well. Um, and then just overall, I've been learning how to play guitar, and so I've been kind of geeking about guitar pedals and stuff. And then I also just do like experimental stuff, like I create ambient music and noise music. So I'm kind of all over the place when it
Hey,
comes to
hey, a person of all trades is the kind of person you need to be, especially if you
yeah,
like so many different kinds of music. You just got to keep writing.
for sure,
So
for
I
sure.
I love that. We also have in common that we both participated in Beep. However, my experience with Beep was pretty much all virtual, to say the least.
Okay.
Uh, I the only semester I had that wasn't was the previous semester, so last semester, but we
Mm-hmm.
didn't have any performances. So I never
Oh,
actually got the full Beep experience of
okay.
traveling because I know that I've had friends that have traveled to like Boston or friends that have traveled to like Texas or LA for a couple days to do performances. You went to South Korea.
Mm-hmm. I
What
sure
was
did.
what was that like with Beep? How did Doc V get a whole group of students to go to South Korea to
Hmm.
perform?
So interesting enough, so we actually co-wrote a piece together as a group during my time at Beep. So I was only really in Beep for one semester, but I was kind of there when it first started when I was a freshman. Um, like a group of my friends in Doc V, they created Beep. Um, and I was like kind of in the background, I'd come sometimes perform, play trombone. But I actually started my first semester in Beep probably my like senior year, and during that time we just like wrote a piece together, and it was just like a collaborative thing. And so then I believe Doc V submitted our piece to a festival in South Korea. It got accepted. So so who went to Korea? It was me, Doc V, and then my friend Dan. And we actually performed with some students from, I believe they were from China, and we just played the piece together in the space. And so the piece included iPads. So we all had like individual iPads. We like turned the volume up to max, and we used this app called Bebot. And we just kind of like did some like weird noises and like walked around. It was kind of like a spatial piece, so you were in a room and you like moved around, and like kind of, it was kind of very playful. But it was a lot of fun, and it was great.
That's
Yeah.
insane. So was this during the actual semester of school? How did you get, or was this like kind of like
Mhm.
summer winter break kind of area?
It was during the summer, so I actually finished school that, like, I feel like I was actually out of school when Doc Fee was like, hey, like we're looking for people from Beat to perform. And I was like, and I also co-wrote the piece, so I just ended up going. I think it was like at least a couple months after I graduated, but it was in the summer. So the summer after I graduated,
Okay.
I went and performed.
That's crazy. That sounds like such a cool time, though. That
It
must have
was
been insane.
awesome.
I can only imagine how cool it was, and I'm sure the reception of the piece was incredible.
Hmm.
Um, Now, as Sarah and I are preparing to venture off into the real world, which is at least in my mind, a very scary place right now, um, do you have any advice coming from an actual student worker here at Temple? Do you have any advice for other student workers and then anyone else just who is preparing to go into the real world? Are there any tips and tricks that you picked up um, from student working that you find yourself carrying into like your everyday life while working?
Sure. I guess my advice to, especially if you're like trying to like look for a job, is to first, like, don't sell yourself short. Like, you have a lot of experience, and all you really need to do is describe that experience and put it on your resume. There are a lot of tools to be able to do that, especially since you guys are still students. You have the Career Center. Once you graduate, you actually can still go back to the Career Center and they'll look at your resume. It's not as extensive as if you're a student, but you can still set up appointments with them, I believe. That was really helpful when I was applying for jobs. And I think another big thing is that as long as you have a bachelor's degree, that opens up a lot of different doors. So for me, I worked in research administration for like 3 years, like once I graduated, which is not music related, but all I needed was that bachelor's degree. Um, and that kind of like I was able to get my foot in the door because of that. Even though my undergraduate was in music. But that's not to say that getting being a full-time performer isn't possible. I think it is very possible. But also, if let's say you're not really interested in performing, there are other options for you in the arts field. It's like, even though I have a performance degree, like I could still work in arts administration. I did that for a couple of years as well. So there, essentially know your options, and like, don't be afraid to ask for help either from some of the tools Temple gives you, or even like just people that you know who are working right now. um I'd have to say that, like, everyone can get you a job, but you would be surprised if you are looking for a position and like, people in the company. Like, don't be afraid to reach out and be like, hey, like, I'm really interested in applying for a position at your place. And that could be that's how you get your resume pulled out of like the pile of resumes, essentially. So that's some advice, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it sounds like having connections is definitely worthwhile.
Hmm.
Um, and it sounds like just keep pushing, keep being you. I like
Hmm.
the don't sell yourself short. I think that is a good one for at least for every music student, just because
Hmm.
coming from a music school, that is a huge, huge thing is to not sell yourself short,
Yeah.
especially like in a performance aspect. Like, you're not going to know how much you're worth,
Right.
and you're
And
not going to know that for a while, but you know what? Don't ever take a free gig like
yeah,
knowing
for
that
sure.
it's not going to do anything.
And like the amount of skills you learn from being a musician is actually kind of staggering. And I don't think a lot of students I didn't recognize that as a student, but when it comes to like communication and working with other people, like that's all we do as musicians is work with other people, scheduling, rehearsals, making sure people showing up on time. Like that's sometimes the first thing that you need to do for a job, is just be able to show up and like be able to work hard, which a lot of musicians, I believe, have that drive, because that's what you need to have if you want to be a professional musician. I think I'm taking this pop songwriting class, and the professor was talking about like who like collaborates with other people, and it's like actually like we all collaborate with people all the time, and we should really recognize that, and that's like a very important skill to have in the workforce or whatever. I don't know. I don't want to call it like the workforce. It sounds so but yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Exactly, and I totally agree with you 100%. With your time as a student here at Temple, how did your advisors help you like go through, like was there any moment where you were like, wow, like I really needed this right now?
Mhm. Well, because I was a peer advisor, I kind of got a more in-depth training on like specifically like how to read the bulletin and kind of how to navigate Temple. And that was like very helpful for me because I was able to understand what classes I could and couldn't take. But then also like the advisors were right there. Like, so if I needed assistance with anything, I could just walk across the desk and knock on Margot's door and be like, hey, like, I need assistance with this, or like, can I take this class or this class? I did switch my majors a lot. I was music ed and performance, then I was music ed, and then I was performance, then I was computer science, and then I was performance again. But throughout the entire time, I feel like the advisors made that entire situation so seamless. And now being in the advisor role, I kind of find out like what kind of work that takes to actually make it so seamless. And so I have to really applaud my advisors for to be able to like make that experience so nice and clean, and like so I do have to appreciate that, and that was really helpful.
Well, you are going to be following in all of your advisors' footsteps because you're doing a great job already, just coming from a student point of view. I only have one more question for you before we get to our little game that we have. It's probably one of the most important questions that we would like to ask you on behalf of at least the peer advisors. What's your favorite Minsky song?
Oh, that's a tough one. Yes, I'm a huge Minsky fan. And it's like one of those things where it depends on my mood, right?
Yeah.
I would say like because right, I don't want to go with the easy answer.
Pick a deep cut.
Deep cut. Yeah. I would say I guess Francis Forever is really good. It like because every song is like a song, but then like there's live performances of that song. There's a specific recording I like of Minsky of its First Love Late Spring, or that song. If you're a Minsky fan, you know what song I'm talking about. But there is a recording of her performing it on Bandcamp live in Philadelphia, and I think that is my favorite specific recording of a song that she performs. And so it's just her guitar, and like her voice is amazing, and she has like this kind of like grungy vibe to her. So I think that's probably one of my favorite performances and songs of hers, just because like you can tell she's just a fantastic artist and musician, and I really respect that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, RJ, we've come to the end of this interview, but before we go, we do have a little game. I'm not sure if you're familiar with our podcast, but you're about to become very familiar. We do have a game that we play at the end here. It's called This or That, but as some people know it as Coke or Pepsi. But we do it Temple edition, so we're picking things from Temple as well as just everyday life. All you have to do is answer the questions. We are going to make you choose between two things. You pick which one you would rather have. You can explain why if you want. However, the caveat is that you only have a minute to get through all of them, and there is about 12 to 15 questions. If you can get through all of them in 1 minute, you win. And recently, we've had a lot of winners, so we're hoping this winning streak continues. But if it doesn't, don't feel bad, because we also have a long list of losers. Or I don't like to call them losers. That's a mean word.
So much pressure.
Not losers. Oh my.
I don't want to be a loser.
We'll give you a virtual high five if you win, though, because we don't actually have prizes that we hand out, unfortunately.
I was hoping for like a gift on my desk or something like that. Give me gummy bears.
All right, there. We'll get you gummy bears. All right. So, yeah. So I'm gonna actually be holding the timer. Sarah's gonna be asking you the questions. Are you ready?
As ready as I will ever be.
All right, then we might as well go for it, ladies and gentlemen, and anyone in the universe. Here we go. We are starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Saxby's or Richie's?
Richie's.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Charles or Paley?
Paley.
Maxie's or Philly style?
Philly style.
J or H?
J. Floor 7. I was floor 7.
I was floor 10. Oh my god.
Nice.
The sack or food trucks?
Food trucks.
Performing or listening to music?
Listening.
Wawa or 7-Eleven?
I guess Wawa.
Salty or sweet?
Sweet.
Alto or soprano?
Tenor. It's just alto.
Acoustic or electric?
Electric.
Center City or Fishtown?
Fishtown.
And the last question, Boyer or TFMA?
I can't choose. The Center for Performing and Cinematic Arts together.
We always put that one on there to trip people up. I love that answer. The CPCA together.
Everyone, all the schools.
So perfect.
I'm gonna consider that a win. That was a pretty solid. That was a pretty solid go about. But I love questions like that.
I think RJ was the first person to like actually answer the hard ones, but like and like politically, like, yes, this is
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, we've had people that we trip up pretty bad too. Like
Wow.
if we have some guests that like we just know them a little too well, like we'll know to trip them up with certain questions and they'll lose all the time. It's so fun. But we can't trip you up. So there you go.
I'm too old.
They are on it.
One bag of gummy bears is going to be on your desk. Ah,
I'm so excited.
Well, anyway, that concludes this episode. RJ, thank you so much for being a part of this. We are super excited to have you in the CPCA advising family once again. I was about to say we're so excited to just have you, but we're excited to have you again. It's nice to bring, old Temple Owls back in to bring something fresh to the table, and you are absolutely doing that. And for anyone with advising needs, be sure to sign up for RJ. They are going to actually be accepting students very soon in the future, and they are awesome at what they do. You are going to love them. So, RJ, thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for such a great interview.
Oh, absolutely. Like always, I would like to thank my co-host, Sarah. Without her, we would not be able to do this podcast because she is the backbone to everything we do. So, Sarah, thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. This was so fun.
And like always, if you'd like to stay up to date with anything CPCA advising related, you can go ahead and follow us on social media at CPCA_advising. That's where you can stay up to date with anything advising related, anything Backstage Pass related, all that jazz. Midterm progress reports are coming up, so be sure to keep an eye up for that. They are going to be in your TU portal, and if you need help navigating through your TU portal, check out our YouTube channel where this episode's posted. We got lots of tutorials that you can check out. But anyway, thank you so much. My name is Ben, and we will see you next week.